Okay. I just listened to my last message, my last voice note. It's the jinx thing, didn't I? Just wanting one night of just good sleep. Yeah, so I had nightmares. Multiple. But they were unlike anything I've ever had before. They were fucking harrowing. In each and every one, I would be in a normal location, and then, just at some point, I'd be somewhere else. The same place. I'd be in this building. It was the same place every time. It was like some dilapidated hospital. It was messy and just stunk of rot and just abandonment. I'd always be wandering around there for a while, and any door I opened just took me to another corridor or some staircase or some hospital ward. There weren't any outward-facing windows, and I couldn't find a way in, I couldn't find a way out. I was trapped, and I wasn't on my own. I only heard it at first, but there was something just clattering around on the lower floors. It was every time, it was the same noise. And if I ever made a noise, it would just start to hone in on me and just get louder and head towards me. I hid behind a door, and then I saw it for the first time. I think it was meant to be a doctor. It was wearing a doctor's coat. It was tall and a heavy-set figure. It had this wide grin of just shiny teeth, but it didn't look like it had eyes or it had them covered. The teeth didn't look like normal teeth. They were jagged and sharp. And on its hands, it had these scalpels and needles that it clattered around on, and that was what made the noise. It was just skittering around on these giant fingers, sharp fingers. I'd never seen anything like it. It spotted me, and luckily I managed to push the door on it and ran away. But as I ran, it slashed down my arm with these weird metallic fingers. That was enough to wake me up, but I looked at my arm, and I've still got the cut from where it got me in the dream. It's like a clean slice, like an incision. You know, the kind you'd get with a scalpel or something. This is some Nightmare on Elm Street shit now. And I just keep thinking I can smell that rot now, and it's just keeping me on edge. Like I need another reason to not sleep. It's getting more intense now. It started with faces or little noises, and now I'm having dream monsters hurting me. I don't know how much more of this I can take. I've patched myself up as best I can, but I can't exactly see anyone about this. And I'm not going to a fucking hospital after that. I thought that was the end of things, but the next day I went out for a walk to clear my head. I don't think I was out that long, but by the time I realised where I was, it was dark. I don't really know how it happened. It was just I just had all this lost time, and when I came to, it was dark and the streetlights were illuminating everything. I kept walking, just trying to get home, when I heard something. It was a metallic tapping noise, like nails tapping against the ground, but any time I glanced back, I couldn't see anything, but I could definitely hear something moving. On the ground? And then up at the buildings, around me, skittering about. I glanced up and I saw its shadow against the sky, just leering at me. Then it changed from standing on 2 feet as it bent down and moved on all fours and started to skitter towards me. Its hands and legs with 4 appendages that made that awful sound as they made contact with the ground. I ran, trying to keep under the streetlights as the light seemed to deter it, having to take a wide berth around them each time it closed its distance on me. I couldn't get home. It would have been too far, and I couldn't evade this thing that long in the dark. In a panic, I ran to the only place that I knew would be well lit and open. The university library. I could feel it gaining on me, but I was unsure if this thing was toying with me or if I was just managing to outpace it to the light each time, to make a bit of distance between us. I dared not stop just in case the thing could enter the light, or if I lost my momentum and it decided to pounce me. I finally made it to the library, hopping the ID card scanner and just hoping to catch my breath. A couple students were about and asked if I was okay, as I must have looked quite the state. I glanced back and I thought I saw something retreating back into the shadows. I'm not sure, but I think it was waiting for me to turn around. Almost like it wanted me to see it choosing to fall back. Or not wanting to admit defeat? Could it have been the scalpel-handed doctor? Having followed me out of my dreams and into reality? I can only hope that's not the case. I still have the cut on my arm from the last encounter. I ended up staying in the library all night. It was mostly quiet, and I thought I could blend in as some student working late in a private room. I wasn't going to risk getting home until the sun was back up after all. I was awoken in the morning by my friend Josh. He'd known I'd gone off the grid and was acting weird, and I think he was really worried. He's doing his master's as well at the university, and he happened to arrive early for some study time and just saw me, face down asleep in one of the private booths, looking much worse for wear. He'd heard Cassie had gone missing and thought I'd flown off the handle or wasn't taking it well. We got coffee and I wasn't sure what to do. Should I tell him about the game and risk getting him in danger? Or just assure him I'd be fine and not to worry? I tried to deflect and it didn't really work. He made me promise to call him if I wasn't doing well and talk to him. I suspect maybe he didn't want to push too hard, but I couldn't help but feel a little bit relieved. A little less isolated and actually getting to have a normal conversation with someone and not listening back to my own audio logs for reassurance. But I can't get anyone else in danger, not until we've put this game to rest. Okay, so things are starting to get bad. I mean, they were already bad for me, but worse. I've just checked my phone and I've just had several missed calls and voicemails from my friend Josh, and let me play them. I think that's the easiest way. I don't really know.
Hey, I know you've been acting a little weird these last few weeks and gone off the grid. You didn't mention it yesterday, but is something happening? I'm not sure why, but I thought I saw something outside and it got me acting a little shifty. Kind of like how you were when we met up yesterday. Is everything okay, or is there something I need to know about? Can you give me a call back as soon as you... Wait, hold on. I think someone's at the back door. Is it you? Is this some kind of prank? Get back to me with this. Get back to me, because this is weird. Something's in the house downstairs. I only got a brief look at it, but something broke its way in. It's some large man thing with bladed hands or something. I've hidden upstairs, but what the fuck is happening? I can hear it sniffing around and moving about downstairs. It's making awful scratching noises. Do I call the police or something? Please pick up, please. This is fucking insane. I hid and I think it's gone now. It was searching around, but couldn't find me. I've just gone downstairs though, and the back door is absolutely fine. But I heard it buckle and break as whatever the fuck was going on got in. There's also another thing on the kitchen counter. There's just a handful of bloody jewellery. I think it's Cassie's. Is this what's happened to her? What's going on?
Okay, that's all of them. So I mean, I guess he's okay, but well, I mean, he's not hurt. But the thing is, this is going from just affecting me. It's starting to affect other people. I don't want to get anyone else hurt, but I haven't decided what to tell him yet, or what to even say. I suppose I'll have to think of something. It sounds like that thing that I saw as well. Maybe I should see if he can share any information to help. I really don't know what's best to do here. Will he want to help me, or have I just put him in even more danger? I don't know. I'm not going to do anything immediately. I probably should check in with him, but this is a fucking mess. Okay. I'm trying to make more of a conscious effort to remember the days and number them in these, partly for my own sake, but also just in case anyone else does end up listening to this. It's currently day 24. Yesterday was a quiet one, which almost caught me off guard. I just keep expecting things to go wrong now, or that I'll let my guard down and it will all get worse again. That's what this does to you. It picks you apart bit by bit, physically, or just by messing with you in any way it can. I decided to go for a walk during the day since the weather was picking up, and it's worked for me in the past. I ended up going to an old nature trail, the kind that's a little out the ways, and you'll only really pass a couple people in a few hours, if that. I kind of didn't want to be around people anymore anyway. It was actually quite nice though when I got there. Makes me wish I had a dog or something to explore with. Plus getting the exercise never really hurts, I guess. After about an hour into this walk though, I'd spotted someone. It seemed like they were keeping their distance at first. It was a pretty warm day and there was just this person, just dressed in black trousers and a dark hoodie, hood up so I couldn't see their face. They were definitely just a person though. They were probably only about 5'5" or something, so they didn't look physically imposing. I mean, the scalpel-handed man was much taller, and he had almost gangly limbs. This was clearly just a normal person. Still though, I just felt really uneasy with this figure. As I was thinking that, they just started to walk towards me. I picked up my pace and decided to continue on the trail. They were still a good distance from me, and I could easily outpace them. They didn't gesture or say anything, just this slow walk towards me. You know how Michael Myers seems to only walk but catches people in the Halloween movies? That's what it felt like. I'd lose them around the corner or break sight from them, and I felt like I was making distance, only for them to be matching my speed and seem to close the gap when they finally came back into view. Maybe they were running when I couldn't see them or turned to face forward, but I somehow don't think they were. Eventually I crested a hill just out of sight from the figure. I hopped a trail fence and through a large sunflower field. They were tall, and I thought it'd be an easy way to lose my follower, but it just felt more tense as I glanced back, and now I had no idea where the figure was. Were they following me still? Had I lost them? Or were they just skulking up on me now that I'd made myself completely unaware? I didn't have a clue. I stumbled at one point, but luckily I managed to catch myself as I emerged on the other side of the field. I doubled back on myself and managed to make it to my car. The car park was completely empty. As I glanced around, I was concerned that maybe they decided to wait there for me, but I didn't see them. I didn't feel safe though, not until I got home, locked the door and slid the chain across. Maybe it was nothing, but even these little things are playing on my mind now. Like maybe I'm freaking out over nothing. But it's also got me thinking, what if this entity does have humans working for it? It could be worth keeping that in mind. That stranger visited me so long ago, and the user on the forum clearly shows there are people that know about this. I don't really know how far this thing goes. So this got me thinking as well. I need to stop being so reactive about things that are happening. That's making all of this so much worse, I mean. And what if there are things that I just can't run away from or escape? I actually need to try and take steps to know my enemy, I think, and understand how to defend myself. The black book I originally found was someone else's record of the game. Maybe there are others that have played the game that can help me. I don't think I should be sitting by and waiting for something to pick me off like some sitting duck. I need to start making actions myself. I got enrolled in kickboxing lessons when I was younger. I'm not really sure why I forgot, but probably because I haven't done any of it in years, but I did decide to spend a bit of time this afternoon reacquainting myself with the basics. I'm by no means an expert, but I did actually remember a shocking amount of it, and I've started trying to put some more training with that back into my routine. If this thing is going to take its time with me, I need to be strong and use that to my advantage. I still hope that maybe I can fix everything if I win this game. Also, like that person in the woods, if it's just a person that accosts me, it's good to know I can handle myself. It might be a good way to get some information out of someone if I can overpower a human opponent. Again, it's not much, but I think I really need to start reveling in these small victories and plan my next moves going forward. Hey, so it's the day after from my last recording. I actually had something weird happen today, but not bad weird, I think. So around midday I had this knock on my door. There were these two guys, both dressed in white shirts and black ties with these big rucksacks on their backs. They introduced themselves as Jensen and Davids, paranormal investigators. They were looking around the area. They said something about following high EMF readings in the area, and something about where I lived had piqued their interest. Normally I'd think this was bullshit, but the two of them clearly had enough things for this to be more than a fun little hobby. One was a bit younger than me, probably in his early 20s, I think. Looked bright-eyed and more smiley. The other older than me, probably closer to his late 30s. Salt and pepper hair, bit of a beard. Bit more of a gruff exterior. Like I said, this didn't exactly seem Men in Black or some shady government organisation, but it clearly wasn't a bunch of guys just playing around. I took a chance on it and invited them in. They asked me a lot of questions about the last 25 days or so, and I showed them some of the things I had. Although I wouldn't show them the book that caused all of this to happen, just in case it jumped to them. I let them look at the drawings I'd made. I told them about the things that had happened. I told them about the shadowy creatures that chased me, the nightmare hospital building, and even that Cassie had gone missing a few days before. They seemed to be interested in all of it, and they took out equipment and took pictures, and they tried to explain things back to me, but I was just glad I could talk to someone about this. One of their devices seemed to pick up a weird hit on the Nightmare House drawing, and the needles were spiking back and forth on one of their gizmos that seemed to get their attention. They talked amongst themselves and they had several theories, so they said they couldn't tell me anything definitive, but they seemed to think maybe there was a link between the hospital building and Cassie's disappearance. Maybe if I could find out where it really was or go back there, she might still be there? They didn't say that was true, but they were adamant the two were connected. I mean, thinking about it, she called me and went missing about 2 nights before I started dreaming about the nightmare building. I know it's really not an answer or anything, but it's something. The 2 men gave me their business card. They actually seemed kind of excited about it. Maybe it was naivety and finally having a hit on something they've dedicated their lives to. Or maybe it's because of some confidence that they can protect me. But they did say if I ever needed anything to give them a call. And also they'll let me know if they uncover anything on their end. I don't think they have anything to do with the entity. I just hope by opening my door to them I haven't put them in danger. The older guy had this big heavy crucifix in his bag and some special salt that he said could make a barrier. I don't know if that'd stop the scalpel-handed man though if he was charging at me. Following up on my last message from yesterday as well, I've decided to go another step further and look into some survival training as well. Like I said before, I can't be passive and just react to things. And also because of that wound I got from the scalpel-handed man could have been really problematic if it got infected. I've been looking into proper wound care and I actually patched myself up pretty good. I've got it wrapped up now, so I'm hoping it heals. I do feel at least a bit more confident in my ability to take care of myself though, alongside the physical training I've started doing. I think before I'd probably just put a towel on my wound and hoped. I guess that's years of school nurses doing that or putting an ice pack on it. Knowledge is really power with this kind of thing. I'm not going to get caught off guard if I can help it. I need the entity to know it's not going to be able to take me down without a fight. I mean, that's why I'm still recording these, right? Or to try and explain to me what's happened if I have disappeared. Okay, so things have been calm for the last few days. I'm not sure if the entity can do some of these physical manifestations in waves, or maybe if the paranormal investigator somehow deferred its presence, but it's been a bit calm, which should be good, but it's actually much more unnerving. I've decided that I need to take action, so I decided to try and review what I know so far, just see if that'll help me. Just try and kind of see if maybe I can put pieces together as I'm doing this. In terms of artifacts I've collected over the last month or so, I have Frank's weird email obituary, the one with all the pictures of us I don't remember. The stranger destroyed my picture of the weird face, so I don't have that anymore. I wrote down the word play a lot from when that was showing up. I've got recordings of the strange noises I heard outside my house, the animal sounds, or whatever the fuck that was. I've got a sketch of the shadow creature that chased me, a drawing I made of the weird nightmare hospital. I mean, individually these all seem weird, but I wasn't sure if maybe if I put these together there could be something that could help me. What the paranormal investigators said to me seems to be my biggest clue so far. They seem to think there was a link between the nightmare building and Cassie's disappearance, as well as the scalpel-handed man obviously leaving Cassie's jewellery after it tried to hunt down Josh. I know some of this has to be related. Maybe the entity's been laying low to try to give me a chance to discover this. But the nightmare building looked like a hospital, and a dilapidated one at that, so maybe that's where I should start. Try to see if there's anything like that near me, and then maybe cast a wider net. Try to find pictures to see if any look familiar now. I mean, it's not much to go on, but it's a good start, I think. Maybe it's waiting for me. I don't feel I should linger on this. I want this to be over as quickly as I can, so okay, I'll try and let you know if I find anything. Okay, so we're at day 31. Officially a month of this curse terrorising me, but I think I've found it. An old hospital down by the south coast of England. It's only a few hours' drive from me. It seems to have been opened in the 1930s. I can't really find out why it closed, but I found something about faulty wiring and a fire in one of the wings, and then something else about multiple patient deaths and some litigation that seemed to close it permanently about 15 years ago, and it's just been vacantly sitting ever since. I looked for pictures, and as soon as I saw it, I recognised it. It looked just like the building from my nightmares. The walls being that sickeningly pleasant beige, the arrows on the floor directing you towards. Some of the rooms even seemed to be windowless like they were when I was there. I think that this has to be it. That was only the first thing, though. I think this thing does know. I went back to the Black Journal, the book that caused all of this, to see if I could cross-reference it with anything I found in there. I opened the front cover, and it was different. Gone were the scrawlings of that first introductory page. Instead was a message written in a jagged script that the entity had left me. I was feeling tense as I read it. I'm not sure if it's a good idea, but it was almost a retort to my very thoughts and actions. It read, "The game can continue, my delicious plaything. If you feel too weak to face me just yet, you have a choice. Let's reset the clock. Sacrifice 3 things you have gained that would help you, and I'll allow you to start again. The game is no fun when the meat is weak." What does it even mean? I didn't know what to do. Could I really go back? Could I go back and help Cassie? What about any of this? Would I be doomed to repeat things? No. No, I can't. I won't. I slammed the book shut and I've just recorded this. So if the entity is here and listening to this, I refuse your offer and I'm going to find you. And when I do, I'm putting an end to this game. Okay, I'm in my car as I'm recording this. You can probably hear it, but the weather is piss poor. And we're back in the swing of weird shit happening. I left on my drive to the hospital today. I thought about inviting Josh along, but I couldn't bring myself to put him in any more danger, because clearly it's not going to get better. I assume the further away I am from my friends, the safer they'll be. It's a Friday today, so I did what work I could, stuck an out of office and decided to drive straight down afterwards so it wouldn't arouse anyone's notice. Last thing I need is people thinking I was acting weird and then going AWOL from work. So I drove, and it was pretty boring for the majority of the journey. I don't think I said, but I'm going to a small town called Foxwich. That's where the hospital was. The trip should have probably only taken around 4 hours. It said the trip would only take about 4 hours. I went as far as I could down the motorway, and then as I was getting closer, I had to come off and found myself in these back roads. There were a few cars, but at this point it was already starting to get dark. It was one of those roads where the speed limit is like 60 or 70, and the roads break off into having a single lane for large stretches of time. And locals driving way too fast, and me, just trying to let them pass when I could. And at some point, I just stopped seeing other drivers, but my phone was adamant I was closing in on Foxwich. I don't really know how long I was on the back roads, but it all started to look the same, when suddenly I saw something in the headlights. I don't know what it was, but it was there and then it wasn't, and then I heard a thud as I hit something in the road. It all happened so quickly, I didn't know what it was. An animal? A person? I don't know. I wasn't really even thinking about the entity or the game, but I got out my car to look around and there was nothing. I couldn't see what I'd hit. There wasn't anything in the road. Nothing. I looked back to my car though, and there was just a red smear of blood and a large dent on the bumper and the hood of my car. I'd guess looking at the size of it, it was larger than a person, but the lack of a body didn't really fill me with any confidence on that. In the sticks, I couldn't even get any phone service to call it in. And then to make matters worse, as I was looking around, the sky seemed to open up and it just started to rain. And I don't mean a light rain, probably not, maybe you can still hear it, but there was thunder and it turned to a storm pretty quickly. I tried to look around for this mystery person, but eventually I was soaked, I was cold, and nothing was responding to me. so I had to get back in my car. I figured if I got to Foxwich, maybe someone there could help me. Maybe they'd know what to do, or maybe this thing's happened before. I don't know. The rest of the drive was slow. Like I said, the roads were twisty, and the weather was not making it any better. I think the last 30 minutes probably took me an hour and a half in itself. Eventually, though, I got to Foxwich. I thought it would help me as I pulled into the town, but it was just empty. Like, I had a hospital, so I expected it to be maybe a busy town, but it was just a set of buildings and empty buildings. It looked like no one had been here in years. I figure it's late now and I'm not going anywhere, so I'm going to sleep on the back seat and hopefully look for the hospital in the morning. I don't know why I didn't find anything about the town being empty when I looked into it, though. It just seemed to talk about the hospital. I can't fathom why the entire town is dead as well. I'm hoping I don't stay long enough to find out, though. Hello. I guess I don't have anything else to record on, so I guess we're just doing these live going forward now. It's about midday, and I've spent the morning just trekking up through the village. My car would only take me so far, and I guess the roads aren't exactly well maintained, so I had to leave my car behind and walk the last leg of my journey. I see it now, though. Foxwich Manor Hospital. Doesn't look like any hospital I've ever seen. It looks like a mansion that's in disrepair, but it is pretty big. It's on the coast, and it looks like some of the building itself has started to fall back into the sea. I thought maybe urban explorers might frequent here, but I've not seen a person since I came here, and well, not since I was driving on the roads last night before the storm, actually, now I think about it.
What makes big dollhouse indeed? You keep pouring.
So I've been looking around, and it doesn't look like there's an easy way in. Doors locked, chained up. Multiple signs saying it's dangerous not to enter. I've tried to spot a safe way in, and I think there's a window in the main foyer I could break in and hop through to get through. Okay, here goes. Let me just... Yeah, I reckon I could. Let me just... Okay, good. Okay, I should be able to climb in and... Whoa, fuck. Nearly put my hand on some broken glass, so I hopped over. There's glass. Okay, I should be able to just... And I'm in. Looks like I'm in a reception area of sorts. Despite the grey weather, it's pretty dark in here. Not much light's getting in. It does feel uncanny, though. Like I've never heard of this town, but it all feels so familiar. Like I shouldn't be able to dream of some place I've never been. Even the smells and colours seem familiar here. I don't even know where to begin. I'm going to start having a look around, and I'll let you know. Well, I'll record anything right away if I see or hear anything. Hello. Oh, thank God it's recording. Okay, I've been lost. My phone stopped working. It wouldn't let me even record anything, so it's been hours, I think. As soon as I left that foyer, I couldn't find my way back to it, and every window I've now come across has been boarded up or blocked. It's like being back in the nightmares. This place twists and turns on itself. There's corridors that loop around back on themselves, some new weird room or ward. It's just, there's some like impossible space shit going on here. Eventually I found myself a staircase I decided to just head down. But it just seemed to be endless. It was they lit by those flickering fluorescent lights, and I was on the ground floor, but each time I went down, it just kept going. I looked over it and they seemed to go on for an eternity, and after the ground floor, none of the floors even had numbers. As weird as it sounds, I think this is it, where it wants me to go. I walked and walked and walked down so many flights of stairs, I just stopped counting eventually. The lights were getting weaker and weaker the further down I travelled. Eventually, though, the stairs stopped on some subterranean level that clearly shouldn't exist in this crumbling manor hospital. It ended on a small basement with a large set of double doors. I opened them and there was more hospital, but this was different. There's this inky blackness that just permeates the corridors down here. Makes the hairs on the back of my neck stand up in anticipation for something, but nothing. I probably couldn't have gone back if I wanted to, but I know this has to be it. It started looking the same as above, but the lighting style was poor down here. And eventually, I've been looking around and the hospital motif is starting to blur slightly. Like some of these rooms I've been going through, they just seem out of place. At one point I walked through and I thought I was in a ward. And then the next room I was in a cabin, and then a hotel room, and then I was back in the hospital again. It was almost like I was stepping out into other locations briefly. They all just have this weird sense of dread attached to them. I hope you hear from me again. But if you don't, know I did my best to get this far. I feel like I should say something meaningful, but I don't even know what to say, really. I kind of hope no one has to listen to this. Hopefully I can put an end to this game. I'm going to keep going now. I need to tell you about what happened after that last message of mine. I need you to listen, and I need to say it so while it's fresh in my brain. After I went down those stairs, I entered the real domain of the entity. I realised that what I was looking at felt weird, because they weren't rooms that existed in the normal world. Well, they were, but they were clearly some kind of imposter's impressions and ideas of what those rooms should look like. They were just missing things that anyone who had been in that place would recognise. Corridors or doorways were a little off. Rooms lacked any of those little things that just give places character. Spots were randomly bare, or everything was too clean, and it just seemed off. I'd pass into a log cabin and smells of the hospital room would remain, as if I was in some area I wasn't meant to be in, and the right smells hadn't loaded through. The room seemed to be getting darker, though, and once again I found myself in the hospital, but in an area I hadn't been in all this time. I was in an operating theatre, some kind of large room where others could look in. I'd never seen a room like this, and any kind of windows where people could observe in, there was just an inky blackness that I couldn't see through on the other side. What was more important, though, was in the room was this figure lying on the operating table. The previous rooms had been clean, but this room looked used. Dried blood caked the instruments, the ground around the theatre, and all over the floor. The smell of stale and decay just lingered in the room. The figure looked almost out of place, though. Like the blood didn't, or couldn't belong to it all. It was withered, skeletal, and dusty, and appeared to be clutching something against its chest. It looked like it had once worn a white shirt, although it was caked in dust and grime, and had smart trousers on, but it still looked a little out of time. Like it was wearing something that was fashionable 50 or 60 years ago. Curiosity got the better of me, though, and I looked over and saw it was holding onto some kind of book. Grabbing and wrenching out of the grip of this corpse. As it finally gave, its arms kind of snapped with it and just turned to dust from the momentum and fell away. I wiped off what residue was on my sleeves and looked over what I'd taken. What could this figure have died clutching onto that was so important? As I opened it, though, I realised exactly what it was. It was a journal. Another log of another player from long before. The dates seemed to be from the 1950s, and they seemed to be from the town of Foxwich. They didn't list the name, but it seemed that they had been forced to play this foul game as well. Maybe they were one of the first players. Maybe they were the last unfortunate soul. But it seems like they'd come down here to end things as well, and this is where they found their final resting place. At this point, though, I was thinking, is this even real? Another trick of the entity trying to shake my resolve? Or was it purely a coincidence that I'd stumbled upon another player from 75 years ago? All I could do was press on and continue. Maybe try to avenge this lost soul, so that no others would be tormented as we had been. As I pressed on, I found myself in more makeshift rooms, hospitals, warehouses, hotel rooms, all linked by these long, liminal space-like corridors of emptiness. It was like a maze of strange locations with labyrinthine corridors. Nothing made sense. Directions written on doors, maps that were there. I was trapped, just aimlessly wandering between locations. I remember I was in one of the warehouses, I think. Shelves filled with large packing crates when I heard it again. That metallic skittering of metal on metal. And I realised something was following me. Looking for me. I managed to pull myself between two pairs of the giant shelves and held my breath as I saw the familiar figure of the scalpel-handed man emerge. He was searching the area where I last was. It looked like a man, but it behaved almost like an animal, stopping to listen when it heard something and almost sniffing around trying to pick up on a scent. I remember its face still had that dark, contorted grin, and I couldn't see any discernible eyes. Fortunately, it didn't seem to notice me as I heard it skitter away and the sound getting quieter as I moved on further ahead. I gave it a few minutes before deciding to cautiously press on, as I moved from the warehouse down a long corridor to a darkened library, emerging to row after row of books, almost contorting into another maze amongst the shelves. As I journeyed through the sea of shelves, I was starting to grow weary. I'd lost all sense of time since I'd entered the hospital and stepped into this maze. Had it been hours? Days? I had no idea. I finally emerged into a small foyer in the library with a check-in desk. A green fire exit push door seemed to be out of place, though, that caught my eye. That had to be it. A way out. I stepped forward, not realising the mistake I'd made until I saw the shadow underneath me. I glanced up, and suddenly the figure pounced on me. It must have been laying in wait on the ceiling, waiting for me to step forward. As it landed, it buried 5 of its bladed fingers into my chest and tried to bend them, trying to hook them into my flesh and hold me in place. I grabbed its other hand as it held over my face, its fingers flexing and waving, just trying to scratch me. The creature had that smirk, with gritted teeth, and I could feel its breath heavily against me, a foul smell of death. I thought that might have been it as its fingers scratched my cheek and lightly scraped the skin as it kept trying to fight its way to slice into my face. I managed to get a leg under it and kicked it in the chest back, ripping its hand out of my chest. It hurt so much. As I kicked it back, it flew into a bookshelf. Its flailing caused several of the shelves to break as books crashed around it. Whilst it was momentarily stunned, I turned around onto my front and I scrambled for the green door, trying to hold my chest where it had hurt me. I heard it recover, and instead of its usual skittering, I heard it bounding on all fours after me. I dared not look back as I ran forward and pushed the door open, slamming it behind me on my pursuer. It was a push door, so I assumed it was going to follow me through and push against it. But as I slammed the door, the sounds of it stopped. I had no idea where I was now. I had a feeling I was clear of that terrible maze. I ran and ran, forcing open doors, throwing my entire body weight against them until I found myself in another familiar space. At the bottom of the impossibly long stairwell. I'd made it? Did this mean I'd won? Was I free? I had no idea, but I threw myself up the stairs, climbing flight after flight. My feet ached and I must have walked 50 floors up before I found myself back in the hospital, with daylight coming in through the broken windows. Maybe I could come back another time, but for now I just need to get out and feel the sun and the coastal air back on my skin. As I climbed through the window I'd broken to get into, I glanced as I suddenly saw 2 blue flashing lights waiting for me, and 2 police officers staring at me dumbfounded. It seems they were just working out how to get in as I'd emerged back out. Someone had spotted my car in the town and called it in, and the police had somehow tracked me to the hospital. Judging from the broken window, they'd guessed I'd gone inside. The officers asked for my name, and as I told them, they seemed to change their expressions, and said I needed to come with them immediately. I wasn't really sure what was going on, or what they meant, but they drove me to a neighbouring town, and to the police station where I was taken into one of the back rooms. Eventually a man in a white shirt came through with a file, and just started asking me questions. I thought this is a lot for a minor trespassing charge? But then they started asking me. They wanted to know about Cassie, her disappearance. They seemed to think that I was responsible, and maybe I'd been in the hospital getting rid of a body? I said that didn't make sense. Why would I drive all this way to leave evidence at an abandoned hospital where people could explore and find it? I couldn't tell them the real reason I was in there, of course, and they definitely seemed to think me being there was suspicious. The detective painted a picture. He seemed to think it was an open-shut case of a guy murdering his partner, intentionally or accidentally, and trying to hide the body in a place to get away with it. They said they were searching the building and my car, and there'd be some evidence as to what I'd done. They kept asking that I confess. The only explanation was to admit guilt, to get a lighter prison sentence, and it was the right thing to do. Their accusations were harrowing, though. For all of this, I was a person of logic, an academic who would have believed that all they were telling me. It made sense. It shook me. I could feel myself sweating as they tried to whittle out some kind of admittance of guilt. It was bombarding on my psyche. For a few split seconds, I did feel the weight of guilt crushing me. Guilt for a crime I hadn't committed, but also the guilt for that me playing this game did in fact have consequences for people in my life. Maybe I was responsible. My coat was slung over the chair and I had to do something. Anything to validate myself. I reached inside. The officers had taken my phone and most things off me, but I rooted around anyway. My hands made contact with a small metallic object and something else. I pulled them out. It was the candle and the Zippo lighter from the stranger that had visited me. The officers started to get irate and demanded I put it away. But didn't seem to make any attempts to approach me. The officer was writing with a pen and I reached over and snatched it from him. As he grabbed my wrist to try to stop me, I yanked my hand back as I tried to draw out the sigils and symbols that I'd remembered from my coffee table. Finally, I lit the candle. My eyes widened as the officers suddenly reeled back in pain as they let out these foul screams. Suddenly, the room around me seemed to react and distort as the officers and people in the room burst into flames. I'd never made it out. This was just another foul trick by the entity to inflict whatever damage it could. And admittedly, this obviously hadn't left me unscathed. I'm not really sure what happened after that. It was strange, but as I talk, more seems to be coming back to me. There was a pulse of blackness that seemed to strip away the interrogation room as it faded out and faded away. The screaming officers were the last to go, as suddenly I sat in a dark space all alone. Yes, that's definitely where I was. I think I'd finally made it. To confront the entity at the heart of its game, I could see blackness stretching out in every direction I looked. But there was something out there, looking back at me. Black smoke that seemed to whisper, trying to prey on my fears and break me, as I'm sure it had broken so many others. Then there was a snap, and it was all-encompassing, trying to engulf me, and I was suffocating within the black void. It contorted my limbs, as if it was trying to prise me apart piece by piece. My body, my mind, my soul. It was painful, more painful than anything I'd ever been through, but I managed to keep this shadowy force at bay. The trials it had put me through, I think, had actually strengthened me. At one point, this would have been enough to break me or to put me down for good, but not anymore. I knew I could fight back. I screamed out and managed to rebuff the shadows. They broke apart and just reformed in the darkness. It seems the hope I had pushed back against the despair it desperately craved. I reached down as I had my trusty torch, the one I'd used in the blackout to keep the darkness at bay. The beam wasn't particularly bright, but it was enough. A ray of light to pierce through this dark, like a knife. The nightmare entity screamed, trying to do anything to deter me, but didn't stop as I approached it. Battered, mentally drained, probably on death's door myself. I reached out with my other hand and grabbed, touching something solid, as I refused to let go. It was cold, and burned my hand to hold on to, and pulled it towards me. I don't know if the creature was trying to wiggle free, or finish me off, but it suddenly seemed more erratic by my aggression. I then turned the torch, and shined the light down the tendril, trying to see how this creature of darkness would react to the light. It seemed to cut into the darkness, burning it away and causing the creature pain of some kind. My hand holding it was growing numb, and hurting so much from the intense cold and pain, but I refused to let it go. As I shined the torch, finally, up to its face. I almost let go for a second though, as I saw my own face in this creature looking back at me, screaming and withering from the light. I almost let go, but I didn't. I shined the light directly into its face, holding it there as I could with what little strength I had left. It looked back at me, starting to scream and wither within from the light. It cost me everything. I held the torch and burned away the creature of darkness until I couldn't see or hear its influence anymore. As the light grew brighter, everything went quiet, and all I could hear was my rugged breathing. I thought that was it for me as everything went black and I fell to the ground. I was too weak to hold myself up any longer. That's it, really. That's all the important information. But I can't say I've ever actually forgotten about anything. All of those details are burned into my mind. I know earlier I said I need to say all of this in case I forgot. But that hasn't exactly been the truth either. You see, I really need to make sure you listened to all of this. I need to be honest with you. It's actually been about 6 months since all of this happened. I mean, those last few recordings. I really didn't want to make them after it all had happened. I mean, it was over. The record I had didn't go into any of that kind of detail to help me. And I think with what I'd gone through, knowledge is key. I wish I had more information, to be honest. I know what you might be thinking, though. Why 6 months? Why record it all now? I beat the entity at its own game. I struggled to sleep for weeks after that, and I still get the shakes and nightmares. But it's all in my head now. The entity's not torturing me. It's just my own damaged mind doing all of that. Until about a week ago, that is. I decided to go and burn that black journal. The one that had started all of this. I kept it hidden in a locked drawer, and I opened it for the first time since I'd locked it away months ago. I opened it to a page. It was the page explaining the rules again. There was one final rule, wasn't there? After I'd played the game, a final step that needed to be done. Once the game was completed, you need to pass it on to someone else to finally be rid of it. The same way I imagine it had been passed on to me by whoever had left that book in the library. So unfortunately, that's what I've decided to do. If you're listening to this, I'm sorry, but it was too late for you quite some time ago. I've done the best I can and compiled the best record I could. It's much more than I got, and from what I've researched, the entity likes to reuse some of its tricks. I need you to listen to this. If you shut me off now, you'll just be dooming yourself. Maybe you think ill of me, and I'm sorry for that, but I need to make sure you were as armed as you could have been for what might be about to happen to you. Like I said, it's more than I got. Save these logs, study my words, protect who you can, and know you can fight back. Maybe I did defeat the entity down in that dark building, but I don't think I did. It will more than likely come for you just as it did for me, and I can't play another round of this game. The entity would make sure I wouldn't survive it. Please, just let me go back to my old life. I've given you this to help you as best I can. Please don't try to find me. You must play this game in 7 days, or something bad will happen. I'm sorry, good luck. You're going to need it.
Right.